free to use the chat to introduce yourselves. And thank you so much for being with us this morning for our Wednesday webinar. We'll give everybody a few more minutes just to get in. Okay. We have a few more joining in. So as you join, feel free to use that chat feature just to introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from and what organization you're with if you'd like to. And thank you again so much for joining us. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. Okay, I think we've kind of slowed down a little bit on joins and we're starting to get some introductions. Thank you so much, Sheila and Lee and Rosa, Yami, Amy. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you and excited to be back for another SGR Wednesday webinar, and especially excited this week because we have one of our very favorites, Micah Gaudet, here with us to talk to us about AI in municipal or for municipal clerks. So I will invite everyone to please use the chat feature to ask questions as we go, and then we'll get to as many of those as we can after the presentation. And continue to use that chat to introduce yourselves or make comments. Let us know what you love and don't love, or where you're confused, etc. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Micah.
Thanks, Krista and Kim, for hosting us here again and having these really wonderful webinars, and hope that everyone has a chance to view the webinars, not just this one, but even some of the other ones. I love the ones we do for the book reviews. I've done too as well. So some really, really great stuff there. I'm going to share my screen here, and bear with me 1 second. I know it's going to be blank here. Let's do this. We should be good now. There we go. So talking about AI in Clerks and how Clerks can use AI. Now, caveat for myself, I have never once been a city clerk. That is a job that is extremely demanding with almost little recognition for the profession that you guys are in, you gals are in. So my hats are off to any one of you who has signed up to this job. It is truly one of the backbones of municipal government and really keeps everything in line, keeps everything legal, compliant, everything on track. Just a really, really important function of our municipal and local governments. So one of the things we talked about here is, okay, how can clerks use AI? Or maybe why should clerks use AI? And we just I think through all the work that's being done, and really doesn't matter if you're in a major metropolitan area or you're in a rural city, the work that clerks do is really a lot of the same thing, right? And so we think about some of those cities and counties with maybe some limited resources. Not a lot of cities are investing into their clerks' offices, to be frank and honest, right? So this is a huge need to be able to provide tools for clerks to be able to continue doing the exceptional job that you all are doing on a day-to-day basis. So when I think of clerks and how clerks can use AI, just kind of imagine this. And if you have other suggestions, would love to hear them in the chat, or we can kind of just talk about that at the end, as Chris had talked about. These are some of the things I thought of, and one of them was document automation. So things like drafting resolutions or drafting ordinances. We could also talk about meeting minutes, drafting meeting minutes from transcripts, drafting those ordinances and resolutions we talked about, or other types of documents we can do. Also, document management, comparing, especially if your clerk's office is responsible for maybe managing your city code and updating your city code. We can use AI to be able to see what are all the areas within the city code that need to be changed. So for instance, I know this probably never happens in your neck of the woods. It happens every so often here in Arizona. The Arizona State Legislature will pass a law that impacts cities and towns. And so cities and towns will have to go through and change or by ordinance, by resolution, whatever, councils will have to change their city code or make some updates to the city code in order to become compliant with state law or with federal law. And so to be able to use AI to be able to see across all the landscape of the city code instead of just one or two sections that we might have remembered, especially when you're looking at cities that have hundreds of years of history, that can be a lot to manage. That can be a lot to go through and update. Talking about hundreds of pages of documents in the city code alone, let alone all the other documentation that we have as well. So some of my favorite AI tools for city clerks, these are some of the ones that I think that I would encourage you to explore these tools on your own, as long as they're compliant with your organization's AI policies and things like that. Here are the ones that I think are very valuable. First, the common one that we've probably all heard of by now in the news and or just in conversations with friends and colleagues and whatnot is ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a very, very powerful tool. One of the ones I use still on a daily basis. In fact, a lot of our demonstration as we get into the demonstration portion of this webinar is going to be heavily focused on ChatGPT. It's a great tool. There is a couple of features in there that I think are really useful. Number one is, and especially on the clerk side of things, if I'm a clerk or as I do document management, I want to upload files, and this gives me the ability to upload files. There's a caveat to that. There's the free version that you can use on ChatGPT that lets you do, I think, about 3 prompts for every 3 hours. So not a lot of use there, in my opinion. You can upload documents, you can do that kind of thing within the free version, but you're limited on the number of prompts. So I personally pay for the ChatGPT Pro version, which gives me unlimited prompts and limited, ability to interact with it. So I find that personally valuable. Like I said, I pay for it personally. The city of Maricopa does not pay for it at all. I do it on my own. Another great one too is Claude. Claude is this really, really good when it comes to word content creation. Right? If we think of AI models as basically they're responding to a prompt and then providing an output based on what you said, right? And so a lot of the work here that I do with document generation or content creation is all text-based content generation. Claude is extremely good at that. In fact, I think it's one of the better models, and I'll often use these two hand in hand. So I'll show you this in a minute here, but basically what I'll do is I'll use ChatGPT to kind of help me craft the idea and craft the outline, and then I'll use Claude to kind of refine the language and really make sure that I'm getting to where I want to go. So that's, for instance, if you see some of my LinkedIn posts or whatnot, I do use AI for LinkedIn posts, just as an example. And so I'll have ChatGPT kind of give me the outline of the post and some of the content there, the basic content, kind of rough draft number 1. And then I'll take individual paragraphs from that and have Claude make it more concise, so more clear, because I think it just does a better job at that. Other one too that I like too is Mistral. This feature, unlike Claude and ChatGPT, does not allow me to upload documents or upload files into the system. So this is purely a text generation AI model. Again, very, very good. And in fact, when I was doing some tests on ChatGPT, Claude, and Mistral to see which ones sounded the most human, or what basically I did was through the outputs, kind of similar prompt, same prompt in each model, and then threw it into an AI detector generator kind of thing online. You can see what Mistral was by far the best at sounding the most human-like. So when it comes to generating content that's not going to sound like it was written by a robot, Mistral was the best for that. But obviously, with all these different tools, it's really important to verify the work that's being done, to verify the output, and to accept responsibility that at the end of the day, whatever we sign our names on, we're responsible for that content, regardless of whether we write it ourselves, if we have a team writing it together, or if we augment and use AI to help us write it. The third and final one that I'm excited to kind of debut to all of us today is this cool tool called ClerkMinutes. Some really great, I don't have any stock or anything like that in the company. I just happen to know some of the folks who have made that. I think it's a wonderful tool. Excited to show you that, of how this system works. It's designed specifically for city clerks. So it's kind of an AI tool that's designed with that functionality in mind. I'm excited to show that to you all today. And I think you're going to get really, I think you're going to love what I can do here too. So the bottom line, if you're new to AI, you've never used it before, you're curious about it, the basic rule is this: talk to it as if it's a human. So as you'll see in some of the prompts I put in here, you're going to see me talk to it as if it's a human being, or as if I'm talking to, giving instruction to one of my team members. So that means I'm going to be clear what my instruction is. I'm going to give parameters for what I want the output to be, and then I'm going to give the expected results, right? So you're going to see that in the prompts I have, and this can be very similar, very conversational tone to how we're doing it. And also too, as we're talking to a human, as you probably know, having, if you work with other human beings in your city, you know that sometimes the first time you say something doesn't always land, doesn't always get the results right away on conversation number one. Sometimes you have to have additional conversations, or sometimes that conversation goes beyond just that first direction to clarifying questions or clarifying things there too. So that's a really, really important thing to do. I'm going to stop my screen share and grab ChatGPT in a second. Bear with me 1 second while I switch screens here. Excuse me. So now we're on ChatGPT. And again, just I'll back up here a second. That way, again, if anyone's unfamiliar with how to find ChatGPT or where to go, what that looks like, you just put in ChatGPT in your Google or your preferred browser, and it's the OpenAI ChatGPT thing right here. So ChatGPT, here we go. And you can see this is chatgpt.com. You can also do this way. You can also do openai.chatgpt.com. Or right there on my app there. So right here we have the 4Omni model. This is the model that is free to use for anyone. They've made this free to anyone to use. I don't remember right now off the top of my head. I don't even think you have to sign up for an account to use it either. I think it's really just go to chatgpt.com and it pops up. But again, if you're not signed up for an account or you're not paying for an account, you're going to be limited on the number of prompts, which is this box right here. Here's the prompt box, the number of prompts that you have in the free version. So in here, let's give it some, let's start a conversation here with ChatGPT and see what we can come up with. So remember that ChatGPT doesn't know anything about you right now, right? So ChatGPT doesn't know whether or not you are a city clerk, if you're a city engineer, or if you are a budding artist in the music industry. It knows nothing about you. So it's important to give some context to who you are when you first begin the conversation. So we'll say, I am a city clerk for the city of Frisco, Texas. And now we're going to give it an instruction of what I want it to do. So we'll say, I want to create a resolution allowing for chickens in the backyard of residential properties. The limits are I'll say up to two chickens per residence in single family zoning only. So maybe we don't want chickens in the backyard of our high density residential areas or multifamily residential areas or even our commercial properties. So this is going to only be for single family residential zoning here. So we're going to hit enter and let's see what happens here and how we're able to do this. So it's going to create a draft for us. You can see here is a resolution. It gives us a resolution number. We can also see as it goes down, I'll wait for it to finish up, and then we'll see what the whole thing says. So it says, whereas the city of Frisco recognized the benefits of urban agriculture and the desire of residents to keep chickens for personal use. So you can see it's adding the whereases for the resolution. Now therefore be resolved by the city council of the city of Frisco, Texas, the definitions, chicken referred to a domestic hen, which is interesting, right? Because I didn't say anything about, hey, only roosters, or I didn't want to allow roosters, but I inferred that, and probably intelligently so. I don't know if our neighbors would really appreciate having roosters in a backyard. It might be a rude awakening at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. in the morning. So it said only chicken, the domestic hen, and it even gave us the name of the Latin name of the hen. Single family zoning, authorization and limitations, single family zoning here, roosters prohibited, must be kept in a secure enclosed area that provides adequate space, shelter, and protection from predators. Again, not something I mentioned in the original prompt, but inferred that. Enclosure requirements, maintenance and care, nuisance provisions, and then added some penalties here as well, and an effective date passed by the city council of the city of Frisco, Texas here. So what would have probably taken us, and I'm sure that as city clerks, you've probably done this millions of times before drafting ordinances, so you are much faster at this than I would ever be. But I would imagine, drafting an ordinance like this probably could take maybe up to 10 to 15 minutes if you're really good, and I'm sure all of you guys are really good at doing that. For someone like me, it'd probably take me close to an hour, just because I don't know what I'm doing in this field. But you can see how quickly we were able to go ahead and draft this ordinance for allowing chickens in the backyard in just a few minutes. We can even go beyond this too, and we can say, create a presentation to council on this item. And so we're going to create an outline for, maybe want to have a discussion with council first. So it's going to create a quick outline for us here. Introduction, background, benefits, proposed regulations, enclosure requirements, maintenance and care, addressing concerns, community impact, case studies, and a Q&A if we need to have a Q&A. And we can even do two. We can say, please draft a executive summary of the proposed resolution that I can include in the council packets for their reference and understanding. So a lot of times we do here, right, is we provide maybe we'll have a resolution, but we'll also have some background materials to be able to put into that resolution there too. So we can do this here. Here's a draft, purpose, background, key provisions, maintenance care, right? So we could include this into the packet. We can even put this into a shorter content too if we want to. So if we said, please summarize in one paragraph, put it into one paragraph. That way it's short and concise, and council is able to quickly go ahead and understand what this resolution is that's before them without having to read the entire page of documents. We're able to condense that into kind of the single paragraph here for their understanding. So really, really great tool we can use here, right? And for the sake of demonstration, and so we can see the difference between the different AI tools, I'm going to do the exact same kind of thing over in Claude. That way you can see and kind of understand what the difference is and make your best decision on what tools you want to use. This isn't one of those things where you have to pick one over the other. You can use all three tools. And in fact, I use all three tools. It's really important to understand is that you're not limited to only using one, at least in most contexts here. So I'm going to continue. I've already have an account here with Claude. I'm going to sign in here. And let's do the same thing here within Claude. So we'll say, I am a city clerk for the city of, and for this one, let's do a different one other than Frisco, Texas, just for the sake of it. And let's do the city of Anna, Texas. And I don't know if it's Anna or Anna, I apologize. So bear with me and my Arizona lack of understanding of Texas city names. City clerk for Anna, Texas. I want to create an ordinance allowing for up to 2 chickens in a residential area for single family residential zoning only. You can see I didn't do exact match, but for the sake of this demonstration, you can see basically the same prompt for all practical purposes. So here we go. And as you can tell, you know, that there's going to be a little different to this. You can see that the model here on Claude wasn't quite as robust as the model on ChatGPT. So we didn't have our whereases or things like that. And for here, it says, you know, the number of chickens allowed, no roosters, kept in a secure coop, minimum distance from property lines, neighboring structures, coop and run requirements, the permitting process, enforcement penalties, effective date. Ask me if I'd like to elaborate on any specific section of this ordinance outline. So here I'm going to do next is please create a presentation to council for this resolution. Again, it's going to give me the kind of a similar presentation draft outline here as we saw in the ChatGPT with the introduction, the growing interest in urban agriculture, key points of the ordinance, regulations and requirements, permitting and enforcement, and so on, public's feedback and all that kind of stuff, right? So very similar. And again, you can kind of see the differences between the Claude and ChatGPT model. But I will show you this is where I think Claude has a little better heads up on ChatGPT and the text generation side of things. So let's say, please provide an executive summary for this ordinance or for this resolution that I can include in the council packets. So it's going to give, again, very similar output here. But what I'm noticing here on the Claude model is it sounds a little more natural, right? This ordinance balances the interests of chicken owners with those of the neighbors by implementing reasonable restrictions and emphasizing responsible ownership. Aligns with similar initiatives in other municipalities and responds to growing resident interest in backyard chicken keeping. So we can say, please summarize in a paragraph. Here's a concise paragraph here. So again, you can kind of compare the different models and what the outputs are from one model to the other model. You can even, I've combined it together in kind of a Frankenstein kind of way too, where I'll have a sentence from ChatGPT that I like, combined with a sentence from Claude that I like, combined with one from Mistrals we'll see here in a second. And so you have different ways to be able to combine things together. You're not stuck with just one model. You can use them all together at one time as well too, and kind of compare and contrast the different ones. So let's grab one more. Let's do Mistral AI. And here's Mistral. And for this one, you don't have to sign it all. In fact, all you have to do is just click Le Chat. Mistral is a French model here. Again, I'm signing with Google. I have an account here, so that should be pretty easy to set up here. And here we go. Different models you can have here. Mistral Large 2 is their top reasoning capabilities. So let's say, again, I am a city, and for this one, let's do a town clerk for the town of Gilbert, Arizona. I want to draft a resolution allowing for up to 2 chickens in single family residential zoning. So it's going to give me a draft. It even says, please ensure this aligns with your town's existing codes. If you see up here, please ensure this aligns with your town's existing codes, ordinances, and state laws, and consult with your town's legal counsel before proposing it, which is something that neither Claude nor ChatGPT. I didn't catch that at all, and those are the ones that they did here too. So here we can see, similar to the ChatGPT output, it gives us our whereases, even does the whole section 1, section 2, section 3. It's a little more robust, and you can see the reasoning capabilities are kind of more in line with what we would typically see in a resolution compared to what Claude output for us. So even talks about things like, added things like chicken manure should be properly managed to prevent odors and attracting pests. The sale of eggs or chicken products from the residence is prohibited. So I added a couple things, and this is one of the reasons why I like using all three models, is maybe I wasn't even thinking about the impact of chicken manure on the residential areas or how that should be managed. Well, now thought about that, so now I can include that in the draft resolution as well too. Even talks about permitting, and obviously you could change this if, say, your town's planning and zoning department is not the correct area for permitting. Maybe it's a different area, who knows? But, or even maybe it's permitted by default, whatever your town and your city's code says about that, you can update that as well too. So now let's do this. Let's say, please create a presentation for council on this resolution. So we could presentation outline. See PowerPoint slides. You can see the outline real quick here as it's kind of going through here, because it's the introduction, benefits of keeping chickens, proposed resolution overview, key regulations, permitting process, enforcement, community engagement and support, and conclusion recommendation. So again, you can see really easy to create these presentations. There's other tools you can use too, but it's gonna be super helpful. So now to the final thing we did in other models. Let's say, please create an executive summary that I can include in the council packets. So it gives me the purpose, gives me some of the benefits here. The one thing we'll see here too, and this is why you want to double check your work, is this provides residents with a source of fresh, locally produced eggs. Well, one of the things we talked about in the resolution was that residents would not be allowed to sell eggs or chicken products from the chickens. So that might need to be clarified. That's for the family to enjoy, or that single family to enjoy, not necessarily for sale. So benefits, key provisions, definitions, permitting process. You can see it's pretty comprehensive presentation here. Let's do this final step here is please summarize in a paragraph. Again, here we go. Proposed resolution aims to amend the town code of Gilbert, Arizona to permit the keeping of up to 2 chickens in a single family residential zoning districts, fostering local food production and sustainability while ensuring responsible management through clear regulations and a permitting process, and on that goes there for this. So I want to show what these different features can do. And obviously, if we talk about other types of documents, we can talk about, if we're drafting minutes, if we're drafting an agenda, resolutions, ordinances, all the different stuff that you're going to do as a city clerk is going to be really cool here. So really great, to me, really great feature we can do with Mistral AI and things like that. So let me go back here and I'm going to pull up I'm gonna look in the chat and I'm grabbing random city and town names here just for the sake of this here. And let's grab, we got a lot of friends from Texas here, which is great to see everyone here. Let's grab the city of Wentzville, Missouri. And what we're gonna do here, I'm gonna go to Google. Wentzville, Missouri. Go to the city homepage. And we're gonna go find one of their documents here. So city document directory. And let's see if we can't find, I'm looking to see if we can find some meetings and agenda or municipal code. Here we go. Perfect. Municipal code. Again, a lot of the work that clerks do is in the code and updating and making sure the code is up to date. This is an important thing here. So here are some adopted ordinances not yet codified. We also have, let's go here and let's grab this guy right here. What we're going to do is I'm going to download this as a PDF. So I'm just going to save that here as a PDF. I'm going to call it Wentzville for the sake of this. It's going to download. I'm going to go back to ChatGPT and create a new one here. So I'm going to upload this example and say, please provide an executive summary of this. And I promise I did not plan this at all, that this ordinance had to do with chickens. In fact, this was completely random that it had anything to do with chickens. In fact, yep, it does. That's funny. I had no idea. I literally just grabbed Wentzville off the top of the list because I know that they do some really great work with AI over in Wentzville. I have a really great AI governance model, which I recommend to anyone who's interested in that kind of thing. So I grabbed it just for that and happened to randomly grab this one, which is, I think it's kind of funny how it all worked out here. We're talking about chickens today. We came to talk about clerks and we have an AI for chickens. So here we have the executive summary, but what I want to show this is how quickly we're able to grab really complex information. And we could do this too with, say, a state law that was passed or a federal law that was passed or something on a more massive scale, and condense it down and provide summaries for us. So here's the background. The definition of chick was unintentionally omitted from the Code of Ordinances, been re-added to these sections, severability clause, enactment. And so instead of having to read through, and obviously you want to read through the full document, but you can imagine having something that's hundreds of pages, right? And it's, for people like me who are not lawyers by trade, don't even play one on TV, they're pretty complicated to read through some of the legalese in these laws and things like that. So the ability to go through and quickly get kind of up to speed on what the new laws say and what the regulations say is extremely helpful. And what this does, at the very least, is it allows me to have a conversation with my city attorneys in a way where I'm not starting from ground zero. I'm starting with a little base of understanding to be able to ask additional clarifying questions by city attorney. I would say this too, when it comes to summarizing these types of laws or ordinances or things like that, it's always really important to talk to your legal representation who's going to understand the nuances of the law and the impacts of the law. Don't just use ChatGPT or an AI model to do it. Always consult with your subject matter experts on that field here. So again, really cool, kind of funny that we happen to get an ordinance from Wentzville that happened to talk about chickens. So we're on, I guess, Chicken Day or something like that here in the US, but just it was super helpful tool to be able to summarize information and to get output from that and to understand what's going on with it. And we could even do this too. We could even say, please summarize this as if I'm a 10-year-old. So if I want it in really simple terms, I can do it this way too. So this puts it in a really simple term. So City of Wentzville made a rule about new rule about chickens. They had a rule before that let people keep chickens at home, but they accidentally left out what a chicken is in the rule book. Now they fixed it and added the part that says a chicken is a grilled chicken you keep at home for eggs, not for selling or breeding. If any part of this rule gets canceled by a judge, the rest of the rule still works unless it can't work without the cancel part. This new rule structure away. It was officially approved by the mayor in May 2024. So really great to be able to summarize things and put it into language that we can understand. I think the basic model of government communication is to communicate at kind of the 8th grade level. So we can say, please provide a summary of this at the 8th grade level. Read the same thing too, right? It's going to have a similar output that's going to be similar to what we saw with at the for the 10-year-old, just maybe a little more complicated at the 8th grade level instead of a 5th grade level there. So really, really great feature here. Now, the other one I'll show you, and this is going to take a little more time to kind of develop and to see it. So bear with me as we do this here. This is ClerkMinutes. And you can see there's a try it for free right here. So we're going to try this for free. There's no credit card required. We're just going to upload this and see what happens here. So for this one, I'm going to use not a city council or city meeting agenda. I just had a meeting yesterday for our AI local government network meeting that we talk once a month. And so I have a agenda that I had for the meeting that we did, and I also have a audio file as well too. So I'm going to grab that. And this is just the audio from the Zoom that we did yesterday. As you can see, it's going to upload this. And this is for demonstration purposes, so you can see what it looks like. It was kind of hard to find any type of example to be able to download an audio file from a city website. It's hard for me to have access to that, so that's why I'm using this, because I own this information. Obviously, if you own your own audio file or things like that, it'd be easier you could upload a more relevant example. But it's uploading it. You can see it takes a little bit of time to upload. This is about an hour-long presentation or hour-long conversation here, so it takes some time. And obviously, some city council meetings can last a long time, and so the platform is actually designed to be able to input multi-hour audio files and meeting files into this. There's a new feature that came out with recently when you sign up for an account that allows you actually to put in a link from a YouTube video or something like that. If you already record it onto YouTube or live stream it, you can put that file there as well too, just the link to the URL, and it'll upload the meeting recording for you. So it's going to process it. Should take up to a minute to process. While we're doing that, I'll show you quickly what that agenda looked like. That way you can see that. Let's see if I can't share my screen and do that here, so that we can see what the simple agenda looks like. I'm going to open it up here. Give me 1 second. So I'm going to stop my screen share and share this agenda. That way you can see what the agenda looks like. I think that'll give a sense of what this is. So here's the agenda, very, very basic for the sake of this demonstration. Introduction and welcome, two presentations, and closing remarks, right? Very simple agenda. We all wish our city council meetings could have this simple of an agenda, don't we? It'd be really awesome if all of our agendas were all that way, or all consent agenda. That would make our lives so much easier. So here we go, back to ClerkMinutes. Our presentation is ready. We're able to generate our minutes here. So we're going to draft these minutes. Let's begin with a welcome. You can see this done in real time. To download and view the minutes, we would have to put in our name, email, and things like that. So let's do this. And let's say this is for this. And for this one, I'll just do my full name. This one, I'll do my email address. And no one referred me, so I'll do this for now. So it's going to send you the full meeting email to your inbox soon. We'll be able to see the whole thing here. So let's see if I can't grab that here. Give me 1 second off screen. I can pull this up. I'll pull off screen so we can see what this email what the meeting minutes look like, and you can kind of see the full scope of what it did here. So I'm going to sign into my email off screen. Bear with me 1 second while I do this. And again, it's really cool how quickly it's able to draft the minutes and puts it in a way that it's designed. The model is designed specifically for clerks, like I said. So it's a really, really great feature here. Got to do my dual security thing here for the login off screen here. And here we go. Sign in. And let's see if this thing came in yet. And I'm hoping that it doesn't get put into a the spam box or the infamous spam box for this at all. If it does, that's fine. I think we don't have to go by off of this alone so far here. But let's see if it won't work by chance. Nothing there. Appreciate your patience here while I try to see if this comes up at all. Okay, we're not in luck today. I should have used a different one here, but that's totally fine. A different email, but that's fine for now. So as you can see here, you can see the mini minutes that it presented here. So it talks about the different speakers here that was talking, speaker 4. We could go in, and if we wanted to, we could assign names to the speakers as well, that we can have the name. So for instance, when I was speaking, put in Micah Gaudette said this, or when David Hunt was speaking, said David Hunt said this. So really, really great and easy way to draft meeting minutes in just a manner of minutes, no pun intended there, and how quickly we're able to go ahead and take a simple meeting agenda that we already have drafted, create a meeting recording, and from there to be able to draft the minutes as well too. So other ways you can do it too, you can even use AI to take your transcript of your recording and then generate the meeting minutes from that, or to draft the agenda from that. It's one way to do it as well too, or a summary of stuff. Really phenomenal and really great tools that we can use within City Clerks. Obviously, we use some kind of similar examples, but I hope that what this does is trigger your creativity and trigger your understanding of your job to understand how we can use AI in municipal clerks and things like that. So Kim and Krista, I'll turn it back over to you. If you have any Q&A, we can start talking with folks on that too. So.
That's perfect, Micah. That was so helpful. We so appreciate it. There are a couple questions in the chat. If you don't mind, I think we've got time. So Megan Casey says, I think ChatGPT is generative AI, meaning it uses anything you put in as public information to help it build itself. So her question is, are these other programs also generative? And I'm sure this relates to a lot of clerks. She says, my IT department won't let me use anything that doesn't have a public use license to keep our information private.
Yes, I would so correct. It is generative AI and it's used to build a model. So, but what you'll see if you look at the examples that I gave, right? These are examples of using ChatGPT in an open source environment and no public information was jeopardized, right? So for example, in the city of Wentzville, that example I gave, that information is already publicly available. I'm not putting in any type of proprietary information. I'm only using information that's already publicly available. So if you think about your meeting minutes, right? Especially ones you already had, if you already recorded the session and things like that, people can go back and watch the meeting minutes. It's recorded, and or if you post it on YouTube or Facebook or other streaming platforms, you can already use it, right? So I'm using information and using data that's already publicly available and able to generate results from publicly available information, which means that the risk to the data risk is relatively low because it's already out there in the internet.
Perfect. And then Thomas Harris says, is there an AI model you'd recommend that generates verified information to ensure outputs are true or accurate?
So a model I use for source information, especially doing research-based things, is one called Perplexity that does provide links to the sources, which is extremely helpful. I would actually caution that though, and I think that the responsibility to verify information is on me, regardless of whether or not I'm reading it on a news article or whether or not I'm reading it off of ChatGPT. It's my responsibility to verify the information. And so I put a lot of work into making sure that the information I'm getting is verified, is accurate. Because again, at the end of the day, when I sign my name to that document, it doesn't matter who created the document. If my name's on it, I'm responsible for that document.
Yeah, I agree, Micah. And to add on that, So would you say that is probably the biggest risk in how we use AI, is that verification piece, is that, AI is smart, but we are smarter. And so if we have to at least have a really good background about it before we make sure that it's set in stone. Would you say that's the biggest risk, or are there other things we should be cautious about?
I think that's one of the biggest risks, Kim. And I also say this too, if we're not in the habit of doing that now with human generated content, we're probably not going to do it with AI generated content either. And so the same principles for verification apply regardless of who is creating the document. So I think just being a habit of trust but verify is really a good thing to do in our information age, especially with our information age 2.0 today.
Yeah, that's great. And I think there might be one more question. Do the free versions that you were talking about today, do they store anything you input?
I'm going to assume that everything I put in there is stored. Okay, so this, like, I think it's a good bottom line for it. And I would say this too is because I'm only putting in publicly available information or information that cannot be tied back to me. I might put in some numbers or stuff like that, but it's not tied to anything specific, just random numbers to generate something. But because I'm careful the data I put in, if tomorrow there was a data leak for OpenAI, I'll sleep fine that night because none of my information is actually leaked, because everything I put in was either publicly available or so randomized that there's no way to tie it to anything substantive for data recognition. But if you just start with publicly available information, you can do a lot with it and don't have to worry about leakage or things like that.
Perfect. Well, that's amazing. Krista, do you have anything else to add?
I think that was very informative as always, and we're getting a lot of really positive feedback in the chat, Mike. I don't know if you've been able to follow along with that, but thank you all so much for participating. I know we're coming up on our time limit here, so I did want to share the link for next week's Wednesday webinar in case you have not had a chance to register yet. And as always, we'll follow up with an email to you with the link to the YouTube video with this live video in it. And we encourage you to comment and engage on YouTube or any of our other social channels, Facebook or LinkedIn. But also we encourage you to reach out to us directly if you have questions, comments, if you have suggestions for future topics. We want your involvement in that and your engagement. So we're here to try to make these beneficial sessions. And so the best way we can do that is with your input. So I'm going to go ahead and share this link because we have Randy Mayu back next week doing a book briefing. And I know that's always a favorite as well. And then, okay, so that's been shared. So grab that link. And like I said, we'll put it in the email to you as well if you don't have a chance to click on the link in the chat. But we will see you all again next week and appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
Micah.
Thank you all.